Hi there folks, today I am talking Shakespeare. Why am I talking Shakespeare? Well, this year is a very important year because it is the 400th anniversary of the first folio of Shakespeare's works. That is the first important collection of Shakespeare's plays in its entirety, with the exception of one play. I believe Pericles was not in it. So 36 plays published in 1623 by some of his friends who wanted to maintain his legacy, and thank goodness that they did. Without this publication, many, if not most, of his plays would have been lost forever. In literary circles, this publication is thought to be the most important book in the Western world. So this channel is about books. Of course I have to talk about it. Why? Why is this so important? Why is Shakespeare still relevant today? Why is Shakespeare still played in theatres all over the world in different languages? Why is he still studied in schools? Why is Shakespeare himself the subject of so many books, biographies, and films? One of the most important reasons is because in his plays and poetry, he speaks of the human condition, of emotions such as love, fear, jealousy, anger, as well as in his comedies, some of the human misunderstandings and misconceptions that can cause mix-ups and comic chaos. In other words, he speaks about us and is as relevant today as he has ever been. Another reason you could say he is still important today is because he had such a profound influence on the English language. Did you know that when you use the phrases tongue-tied, hoodwinked, it's all Greek to me, sets your teeth on edge, or in a pickle, that you are quoting Shakespeare? He invented those words and phrases and many, many more that we use on a daily basis without even thinking about it. They are brilliant. Why have they stood the test of time? Because they are excellent ways of describing the difficulties of life and human emotions in a very graphic way that can be understood by all. In his plays and in his poetry, he asks philosophical and existential questions that we might still ask ourselves today. We all know the quote, "To be or not to be, that is the question." It's one of the most well-known existential questions ever. Is it better to live or die? That's from Hamlet. But what about the Tempest? We are the stuff that dreams are made of, and our little life is ended in a sleep. Another existential, rather a beautiful one. Now, the reason some people find Shakespeare difficult, or maybe, kind of tend to dismiss Shakespeare, is usually because they find the language too difficult, or maybe they had a bad teacher at school that didn't really fire them with enthusiasm for Shakespeare. And one important thing we should remember always about Shakespeare is that the plays were meant to be played, not read. Though reading Shakespeare can be quite difficult. Shakespeare plays should be seen and played by actors. And every performance, every version of every play can have its own interpretation of Shakespeare's meanings. That's why we have so many different variations, very, very different plays and films that look at the different themes of the plays, the different symbols. There is so much to be got out, and they are so full of symbolism and philosophy and just summing up of the human condition, that the plays are constantly kind of being reimagined and rethought out, and that will go on forever. So if you don't understand why Shakespeare is so important, and what is important, because of course the language is old, you know, he was writing in the 16th century. And when you study Shakespeare, you learn to look at those lines and try to work out what they mean. But when you're watching Shakespeare or listening to Shakespeare, it's important you don't get too caught up in trying to understand every word. You can just enjoy the beauty of the language. Just from my memory, in Romeo and Juliet, Juliet says, "Give me my Romeo, and when he shall die, cut him into little stars, and he shall make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night and pay no worship to the garish sun." Isn't that beautiful? And talking of that particular quote from Romeo and Juliet, there is so much symbolism to be enjoyed. Romeo and Juliet's, the whole play, when you read it, you can see so much symbolism about sun and moon, night and day, the two families warring against each other, Romeo and Juliet. Romeo is symbolized as the moon or night, and Juliet as the sun, as Romeo says, "But soft what light on yonder window breaks, it is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun." So you can see I'm enthusiastic. I could go on talking about Shakespeare all day, but I won't. But I have been a fan of Shakespeare all my life. I grew up with Shakespeare. Of course, my father was an actor, and so I got to see Shakespeare plays from a very young age. And in the 1970s, and then later in the late 80s and early 90s, up to the year he died in 94, he was with the Royal Shakespeare Company. So he was in a lot of Shakespeare plays. So I grew up with Shakespeare. I studied Shakespeare at school, of course, and in fact I was in my school drama club, and I played in Lord Ross in my all-girls school production of Macbeth, and this in fact is my actual copy from that play. And you can see it's kind of almost falling to pieces. You can see all my notes there, all my pencil notes in the line from that production. I enjoyed doing that so much, and it was doing that made me want to become an actress, which I did for a while. Also, this is my very first, and only actually, edition of the complete works of William Shakespeare, and this was given to me by my brother. To Roz with love from Michael, Christmas 1978. There you go. So that I have read through them all, and you just might like to know I have got probably all of the plays in individual form, and many of them belong to my father. for example, this edition of As You Like It, which you can see my father's lovely signature in it. He didn't write many notes when he plays it, strangely. I used to write copious notes when I was playing. So you can see that I've grown up with Shakespeare. Some of my the books I've written involve Shakespeare. My book Isabel Bright is about a Victorian shoemaker's daughter who runs away to join a local travelling theatre and plays Ophelia in Hamlet and so on. And I have studied Shakespeare. I studied Shakespeare when I did my Open University degree. I have read biographies. This is a biography by Peter Levi, which is very good. And Bill Bryson wrote a biography too, which is also very good. So if you're not a fan of Shakespeare, I do encourage you to have a second look. Go and see a play, or if you can't see a play, look at one of the films. David Tennant as Hamlet. Oh, there are so many films. That's the one that springs to my mind. And just enjoy. If you don't even understand it, just enjoy listening to the language. So that is it. That is why Shakespeare is still important. He speaks to all of us, then, now, and in the future. And yes, William Shakespeare did write them all, just for those people who believe that somebody else wrote them. Just a quick word on that. I have a big argument about that. The main argument that sometimes sort of rumbles away, that people say that William Shakespeare didn't write the works, is that he didn't have the enough education to have written them, which I think is total rot. Oh, yeah, he had a grammar school education. Okay, a local, just up the road from me, Stratford-on-Avon, where he was born and where he died, you know, a provincial education. He didn't go to a university. Okay, fine. But that doesn't stop people from learning after school. We can all do that. People could do that in the 16th century as well. If you are intelligent enough and curious enough, you could find ways of learning more and more. And he could read and write. He could read. So the influences, the sources he used for his plays, yes, of course he read them. Why not? Just because he only had a provincial education does not mean that he could not have learned more and more throughout his adulthood. And I think it's a shame to say that a human being could not come up with that. Why not? That is putting a limit on the possibilities of what it is to be human. And that's something that Shakespeare didn't do. So, small rant over. I hope you enjoyed that. And I will be back with more books from my bookshelf. So please subscribe, please comment, like, and whatever, because it really helps the channel. And I will look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.